The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, has taken significant steps in providing a framework for the development of science and technology in the country by mainstreaming it into his national development strategy. President Buhari has proved his commitment by the 50% increment in the Tertiary Education Trust Fund's National Research Fund in the 2020 budget. The Board of Trustees and management of the agency, having realized the position of content, especially the place of research and development in global ranking of tertiary institutions, began a paradigm shift that connects industry with academia in a manner that converts research content into problem-solving products and services. A milestone was reached by this initiative when TETFund inaugurated a 162-member standing committee on research and development.
To galvanize our vision towards making R&D the eighth and game changer in our national development agenda, the need for appropriate law to support the establishment of this foundation cannot be overstated. We need a robust institutional framework and arrangement for this foundation. I'm recommending a minimum annual budget threshold because we have to define the funding windows to support the foundation if it comes into being. Budgetary threshold of $1 billion. That is my suggestion, but we leave it to the committee to arrive at anything that they feel appropriate. I think that should be the minimum, $1 billion, and it is achievable because we still have some funds within the system, and I know the committee will work on that. If they identify them, bring them on board. And we remember that that's exactly what Academic Staff Union of Universities ASU did between 1990 and 1992 with the military government of former President Babangida to arrive at signing an agreement that gave back to ETF that is today TETFund. It was innovation at its best.
Professor Suleiman Elias Bogoro, the Executive Secretary of TETFund, is the inspiration for this paradigm shift. It is his firm belief that no country can take a place at the table of developed nations with capacity to lift its most vulnerable citizens out of poverty without a significant investment in research and development. The TETFund Standing Committee on Research and Development is comprised of some of the best minds and most accomplished professionals and seasoned academics across crucial sectors of the economy. They are charged with the responsibility of bringing their expertise to the table in 13 key thematic areas. The committee galvanized itself into action just minutes after inauguration and has since made considerable progress in developing several technical documents that are ready for adoption.
If we didn't have a TCT, Technical Coordination Committee, I better imagine at many stages we would have been struggling. Because we have the very senior people, the job they are doing as committee members is not full-time, don't forget. These people have full-time responsibilities. So we needed some younger elements that will fill the gap and be doing those nitty-gritties, those finer elements that are technically required to define the direction of the committee job. I can tell you there are a lot of things that we have realized courtesy of the implementation of the RDSC.
This edition of the Paradigm Shift focuses on feedback from some members of the Technical Coordination Team, which serves as the secretariat of the R&D Standing Committee. They give us an update on the activities of the RDSC.
TETFund Research and Development Standing Committee was inaugurated on the 24th of September. The plan was actually very clear to make sure that we fast-track a lot of actions, because you agree with me that Nigeria is belated when it comes to the issue of R&D. So we cannot afford to waste much time. So what really happened was that immediately after the inauguration, that same day, people were divided into thematic groups based on different activity sectors of the economy. So in this context, we need to do what we call simultaneous equation, doing research and at the same time ensuring that that research is giving us development immediately.
Urbanization, deforestation, desertification, and overpopulation, and all kinds of pollution are just some of the resultant effects of man's interaction with his environment. These changes occur as people attempt to acquire their seemingly endless desire for food, shelter, recreation, and infrastructural facilities. Nigeria has a total land area of 983,213 square kilometers, occupied by nearly 200 million people. The interaction of these millions of people with their environment has left indelible marks on the landscape. Though wants and desires contribute to the development of the country, the unwise use of land and its resources produce negative impacts on the environment.
Things like erosion, things like deforestation, things like desertification, things like pollution, and so on. Pollution both in the air, land, sea, water bodies, and so on. So we're looking at these issues, the problems, and then how are we going to leverage research and development to correct some of the things, that are going wrong in our environment. The country is big and we have a lot of bioresources, that are within Nigeria, and we're supposed to look at where they are located and how we have used them and how we can use research and development to be able to harness more potentials that can come out from our bioresources. Things like gene banking, we should have gene banks that would tell us the different species of animals that we have without having to, go and carry the animal and put them in a zoo, kind of. What are the ones that are good for us? What types, are we supposed to consume? Which ones are we not supposed to consume? As well as doing the same thing for our plants, our seeds. If you don't preserve these things, they will go into extinction. We're also looking at, the Green Wall project that is coming up now. How are we using our resources to make sure that we are not degrading our environment, causing climate change and so on. So in terms of pollution, you're looking at gas flaring. How are we using research and development to harness our gas and then channel it into things that are, very good for us? How are we turning our waste into wealth? How are we utilizing the resources in our water bodies? That's the blue economy. You have a lot of things underneath our waters. What are we doing to harness them? So all these are some of the things that the Environment and Bioresource Group, we're supposed to be looking at.
In the second quarter of 2019, ICT contributed 13.8% of Nigeria's GDP calculations, as against oil and gas, putting in 8.8% in comparison. Digital technologies are transforming every aspect of our lives, and ICT will enable Nigeria to take advantage of them in order to become a leading player in the global digital economy.
ICT and digital economy, it's really a very, very exciting subject to be in this committee because we see it as a driver for all other sectors, apart from being a sector in itself.
The RDSC can help to fast-track the development of our digital economy by supporting the implementation of President Buhari's Digital Economy Policy and Strategy document, which is based on 8 pillars. The pillars are developmental regulation, digital literacy and skills, solid infrastructure, service infrastructure, digital service development and promotion, soft infrastructure, digital society and emerging technologies, and indigenous content development and adoption.
From what we saw when we went into the field, a lot of our young folks are far gone in this aspect, and they all need to be harnessed. We interacted with some of the private practitioners there's this disconnect between them and the regulators. They developed a lot of software, and instead of government agencies to patronize the locally developed ones, their pain is the fact that they rather go abroad, use Indian, applications, use those coming from the US, and this is costing us a lot because we have to pay licenses for such, applications that you get from abroad. We need to look inwards. We have brains that are developing, applications that can solve our own peculiar problems instead of depending on, the outside. So mostly is the fact that we need to have a greater local content in this particular industry. Hugely significant. There's going to be a lot of job opportunities, for our young ones to explore. Right now, a lot of I don't know if you know that so many of the commercialization aspects are becoming digital, even with the COVID-19. More things are being done online. When other businesses are having issues staying above board, it's not so in the digital economy. That is, everything is moving, into the virtual space. See what is happening with NIMSI, for instance, trying to make sure we get the identification aspect of Nigerians, sorted out, because that is a baseline for you to be able to plan, for you to be able to know exactly what is required. And all of that is sorted out with ICT, So it's an area that if, there's enough emphasis, is going to, solve so many of our problems as a nation.
Engineering practice in the modern sense was introduced into Nigeria with the colonial administration of the country. The major technological undertaking during the latter part of the 19th century was the development of infrastructure like public buildings and roads, telegraphy, and railway. It was only during the 1960s that the first professionally qualified engineers were produced locally. In Nigeria's modern economy, there is suddenly a need for focused engineering that would have the narrower objectives of the advancement and pursuit of excellence in technology and engineering, and the provision of a national platform for experts to pool their experience and insights and make input into public and private technical policy.
I think there are so many things that we can do to be able to bring ourselves on board in terms of engineering. In farm, in space, in hospitals, in all areas of life, we see engineering all over. So one way to do it is what the Executive Secretary of TETFund has launched recently, to be able to bring all the think tanks in Nigeria to brainstorm on the way forward. One of the way forward, they said, is to make R&D the driver of our economy. And to be able to do that, you need to be able to prepare the ground, bring a kind of entity or an organization that will be able to now bring academia, bring entrepreneurs, bring government to a point, so that all of us can take advantage of that. The environmental analysis that we conducted recently highlighted the need for National Research and Development Foundation to be able to bring everybody together. We have seen potentials in Nigeria, but there are a lot of gaps in the sense that stakeholders are not at a point. Everybody is doing his own thing, and I think the paradigm shift will be to bring stakeholders together and make R&D the hub of our national economic growth. Very possible. In 2012, I turned down proposal of a job in the United States. We have so many of our Nigerians contributing very well to the US economy. So we can leverage on our think tanks in Nigeria, even in diaspora. And in Nigeria, we have so much left our people in diaspora behind what the events in Nigeria. I'm glad the government has brought up a Nigerian Diaspora Commission. I think they will be able to do a lot. One way to go about it is to be able to conduct a kind of an assessment, which we did through TETFund. We assessed the situation in Nigeria, and we have seen that we have a lot of potentials. It is not too late. We have the institutions, we have people we can leverage on who are contributing to the advanced economies. I think what we need to do is to enhance what we have in Nigeria already. We have so many universities, that is a good advantage. All we need is to be able to now see how we can now develop linkages with people in diaspora so that they can come back to Nigeria, give back to Nigeria, be able to train people, be able to collaborate on research and development. I've interacted with the US laboratories. They are best laboratories in the world. From my experience in the local visit that we have conducted recently, most of our laboratories are not standardized. They turn out products which you can only see with your physical eye, but you don't know what that product could do. So we are struggling because we don't have standardized laboratories to be able to now look at what we have, look at the local contents we have, and improve it vis-a-vis the products from advanced countries. So to be able to do reverse or backward integration is to have a laboratory, a well-situated and standardized laboratory that can now characterize what is in existence, then look at how you can use your local content to be able to bring to bear what you have seen in existence.
Nigeria has a fairly extensive infrastructure of roads, railroads, airports, and communication networks. The road system is by far the most important element in the country's transportation network, carrying about 95% of all the nation's goods and passengers.
Infrastructure cuts across the entire spectrum of the national economy, from agriculture, mining, manufacturing, distributive trade, utilities, building and construction. You require infrastructure to support all activity sectors, including education, even government services. You need infrastructure.
Diversifying the Nigerian economy will require huge investments in infrastructure, and the Nigerian government has identified this as a major priority. But given the current realities and the cash position of the Nigerian government, developing Nigeria's infrastructure will require significant private sector funding and strong collaborations between government and the private sector, and a medium to long-term view on the benefits and economic returns on investment in the country.
Most of our critical infrastructures are even now decaying. Even to maintain them, we couldn't. In fact, from conceptualization to design, fabrication, construction, and commissioning, we are not heavy in the critical areas. So most of this infrastructure, is it in the area of power? Is it in the area of roads, rail, airports, and the rest of them, seaports? They were developed using foreign technology. And when they were coming, the way we procured them did not give us the leeway to eventually acquire the technology and be able to at least do maintenance. They were acquired in such a way that the critical mass of our own people, the scientists, the engineers, the technicians, were not involved. So anytime we want to maintain, we have to call back those people who helped us. The same thing happened in building our industrial complexes, whether it's for aluminium, whether it's for iron and steel, whether it's for motor assembly plants. In every aspect of it, you see that we could not keep pace with maintenance and even building our own. So that continuous reliance on outsiders is one of the things that this fund is going to correct. It's a paradigm shift that this fund is bringing. Not that we have not been doing research and development all along. The first generation universities were built many years ago. Yet, we cannot do reverse engineering. We cannot acquire the skill. This is across all thematic groups. Now, what this fund is saying that inability to create strategic alliance between the industry sector and the academia and R&D institutions in Nigeria must be bridged. For instance, you want to do Mambeli hydropower station. From the design of that power station, fabrication of the parts, installation and test run, Nigerian engineers, some Nigerian companies. When you say Nigerian companies will be involved, the thing you are calling Nigerian company, if it is heavy on foreign engineers, foreign human beings, foreign machinery and equipment, that is not what we are talking about. We are talking about our universities and so many R&D institutions in this country. The relevant ones, if it's in the area of infrastructure, must be involved. If it is in the area of health, must be involved. If it is in the area of defense, must be involved. So that when our people take part in these things, and taking part is not just taking part as of the old. This time you are taking part so that the skills acquired in the course of taking part will rub off on the curricula of our tertiary institutions. Until you do that, you can never be indigenously industrialized.
Even though primary education is officially free and compulsory in Nigeria, about 10.5 million of the country's children aged 5 to 14 years are not in school. Only 61% of 6 to 11-year-olds regularly attend primary school, and only 35.6% of children aged 36 to 59 months receive early childhood education. The standards of secondary schools, which boast of producing some of the most prominent leaders in society, have steadily declined, due in part to insufficient funding, poor facilities, and a dated curriculum.
Education is at the foundation of it all. It's cross-cutting. All the other 12 thematic groups are founded on education, from energy to infrastructure, defense, governance, and all the rest. It begins from education. And from all what they are doing, all of this will end up, a lot of it will end up in curriculum reviews and the way, paradigm shifts in the way we have been doing things.
Universities and polytechnics that are supposed to be the nation's hub for innovative knowledge and industry, respectively, have been plagued by perennial strikes. TETFund owes its very existence to the need for a solution to the challenges of tertiary education, a responsibility that the agency takes with all seriousness and dedication.
Part of what you see in the field and part of the problems we are complaining about in virtually all the areas, you can trace them to the quality and type of education that we are offering. The shifts now, if you notice in the universities, universities exist for several years. No, professors don't have patents because that's not the orientation. They publish to be promoted, but now we want every research in the university to be needs-driven, to be of the problem-solving type. No more going to the internet and cutting and pasting and having so many papers just to be promoted, but with no patent, researches that have no marketplace value. They are not commercializable. Now we're saying whatever you are doing must solve a human problem so that it can be competitive in the marketplace. Instead of research and development, now we're going into research for development. And that's a paradigm shift. It requires a reorientation of those who work in the university, the basic stakeholders, and it requires a major shift in the curriculum of what we've been doing before. It's not going to be business as usual.
It has indeed been a busy time for the TETFund Standing Committee on Research and Development. The change in approach is based on 3 core pillars. First, to have a clear understanding of where we came from and what went wrong. Second, to identify the practical solutions that can solve both fundamental and emerging problems that could threaten our knowledge economy. And third, to implement policies that unite industry, academia, and government in one purpose: the development of systems, products, goods, and services that will lead to prosperity and elevate the quality of life of all Nigerians. And that is the paradigm shift.